we start back in Ruth 1:9, but before we do so, I want to apologize for the long delay. My wife and I are knee deep in an adoption process. If I may be bold and ask for prayer in that regard, that would be much appreciated. But we're going to start back in the Ruth 1:9, starting after the Zakeph, ending at the Athnot. Isha bait Isha, each in the house of her mother. So if you remember, Naomi's encouraging her daughters-in-law to go back to Moab, and that she's hoping that the Lord would show favor to them. They may find rest in the house of new husbands for them. And so we pick back up with Isha, and here it's the word woman, but you heard me translate this as each. And this word woman can be used in a distributive sense, meaning each. We're very familiar with the distributive meaning for the word ish, which means man, but this word is very often used in the Old Testament in a distributive sense. Each to his own house. That phrase will often include ish. But here, because the subject of the imperative is Ruth and Orpah, Naomi uses Isha in a distributive sense. Next, we have a construct package, bait Isha. Bait is in the singular construct form, and we have a conjunctive accent here that helps us to know that the word's in construct. And next, we have Isha. Now this is not the same as the Isha at the beginning of the clause. You notice a couple of different things. You have a Hirik Yod in our second Isha, and we also have a Mapik in the Hay. So what we have in the end of the clause is the word Ish for man, and it has the 3fs suffix. The one thing that helps us know that it's the singular 3fs suffix is the mapik in the hay. So you'll often see words end with kametz hay. If there's no mapik, you know this kametz hay is marking a feminine word. But if the word ends with a kametz hay and the hay has a mapik, you have the singular 3fs suffix, meaning her. And so here we have her husband. That's a 3fs suffix at the end. So we have each, I'm sorry about that, each in the house of her husband. And real quick, you heard me translate this, and a lot of our English translations will say each in the house of her husband. But there's an obate preposition. And sometimes a preposition can be left off. And without case endings like accusative endings, genitive, nominative, things like that, context will have to help us sometimes know if a word is acting adverbially. And so this phrase is acting adverbially, and that's how we get the translation in the house of her husband. And so I want to look into this a little bit more about the missing bait, but that'll have to be for another time. But just suffice to say, and it's common in biblical Hebrew, the preposition can be missing, and this is functioning adverbially. And in fact, because the case endings have dropped off, that's why you, especially with the accusative endings, that's why you start, since the case endings dropped, prepositions were being used more and more. But sometimes those prepositions can be left off. And so that'll conclude this video for Ruth 1:9.